Legend of Total War here, and today something very interesting has occurred, which previously I would not have legally been able to talk about, but I can legally talk about it today. So if you're not interested in the type of discussion around leaks and spoilers and speculation, I'm not sure why you clicked on this video, but that's entirely what this video is about. So click away now before you're essentially spoiled. But if you are still here at this point, I'm assuming you do want to know about this stuff and want to be part of the conversation, because there is no official information here. None of this is concrete, 100% truth. It's all just speculation and possible leaks. Okay, so I was just spending time playing Warhammer 3 my own time today, playing a Bellicor campaign, and every 2 or 3 days I go onto the Total War subreddit just to see what people are talking about, because sometimes I can draw inspiration for videos from the Reddit. Like, for example, the Vlad video where people are always complaining about how Vlad is unstoppable. That actually made a really good video for the channel. So I went on there and noticed that a lot of people were talking about Bronze Age Egypt, like an unusual amount of discussion around it. So I went and scrolled down and looked for the origin of this discussion and found this. So, posted 19 hours ago, new Total War spotted, 2.1 thousand upvotes, Total War Pharaoh. So, my initial thoughts with this kind of stuff is usually take any sort of leak with a grain of salt, but in this particular case here, the more I think about it, the more I think that there is actually a lot of evidence to suggest that this is correct. Now, as I've said, you can't know for certain without an official announcement, and this isn't an official announcement, but let's just go through all the reasonings as to why I think it's going to be Total War Pharaoh as the next historical Total War game, and we'll offer a couple of reasons why it might not be. So nothing's conclusive, but if you want my personal opinion, I do actually believe that the next Total War announcement is going to be Total War Pharaoh. So the first and biggest reason why I think that it will be Total War Pharaoh is because it makes sense based on Creative Assembly's business structure that they've been doing ever since the origin of Total War. If you take Total War Saga Troy and take that exact game and essentially reskin it and set it in Egypt and maybe have some Mesopotamia in there as well, you would have a good version of a Total War Pharaoh game. Total War Troy is set in the Bronze Age, uses a good economic system with bartering. People loved that. The diplomacy system works really well. The settlement system, the recruitment system, all of that stuff works just fine in Total War Saga Troy. Just take that, maybe fine-tune the battles a bit, and then boom, Total War Pharaoh. Because you've already got the historical setting there with Troy. Just do the same thing with Pharaoh. I don't think there would be a myth behind the truth behind the myth, or a mythos version, or maybe there will be, who knows. But that could be interesting as well, having Anubis come and help you out or whatever, who knows. So yeah, taking those exact same elements from Troy and just bringing them down to Egypt would work really well. And Creative Assembly has a long-standing history of doing this kind of thing, where they take a game and then they just adjust it slightly and make another game real cheap. So here's some evidence to that. All the way back to the origins of Total War, you've got Shogun 1 and Medieval 1, where Medieval 1 is basically just a mod of Shogun 1. You've got Rome 1, Medieval 2. They're the same game, essentially. Empire Total War and Napoleon. Shogun 2 and Fall of the Samurai. You've got Rome 2 and Attila, essentially the same game. And you could even argue that Thrones of Britannia is the same game as Total War Attila. Warhammer 1, 2, and 3, all essentially the same game. And then you've got Three Kingdoms and Troy, which are the most recent historical Total War games, which don't yet have a pair. So if you get a pair for Troy and Pharaoh, I think that makes a lot of sense. So another thing is that the Bronze Age Egypt is something that people have been requesting for a long time. Now, I do not think under any circumstance that it is the most requested setting for the next historical Total War game. I think that's most likely going to be either Medieval 3 or Empire 2. Now, there's no guarantee that that's what they're working on. But if they were going to work on those two games, they would want it to be a major historical title because of the grander scope of those two games. Now, if you're going to do something like Total War Pharaoh and make it similar to Total War Troy, it makes sense to make it like a saga game. So I think that this is actually a saga game. It just hasn't been posted down here as a saga game yet. I think it's being developed by CA Sophia because they're the ones that made Total War Saga Troy, because Creative Assembly, they've got multiple teams, and they want to have multiple Total War games working at the same time. They've probably got 3 or 4 Total War games working on at any given time, right? So the team at CA Sophia are probably working on this, if I'm to be speculating on that. So I imagine that the art style and everything would be basically identical to Total War Troy. It just makes a lot of sense. Bronze Age, just pair those two up. It just, in my opinion, it just makes a lot of sense. Now, if you had asked me this a few months ago, I probably would have said that I think that the next Saga game would have been Three Kingdoms 2, a Total War Saga, as in they just take Total War Three Kingdoms and then just give you the Three Kingdom time period as a Saga game, because they kind of hinted towards them doing that, but that got so much backlash and almost universal disdain from the community that I think that they pulled back on that, and they've maybe left that for a later date. So we'll see what happens with Total War Three Kingdoms, but I think that was their original plan. And Troy worked as a Total War game, and they finished work on Troy over a year ago, which gives really plenty of time, I think, to just do a reskin, which I hope that that's not just what they do. I hope they go in and fix up some of the battle mechanics, but the campaign mechanics in Troy, apart from being very heavily exploitable, are they're good fun. You can always just not exploit as well. So I think that that makes a lot of sense. Now, another thing that there's evidence to suggest that this is correct is Creative Assembly is prone to having leaks. They don't do it deliberately, but they're a big company and leaks happen all the time. In fact, it's almost consistent with Creative Assembly that a leak will occur. It happened all throughout Total War Warhammer 3. Now, as somebody that has been in the partner program and was in it for quite some time, I can share some experience of what it was like with leaks. So we the creators, are usually clued in about a announcement a few days or a few weeks before Creative Assembly makes the official announcement, largely depending on how big the announcement actually is. So if it's a major title, like for example Warhammer 3, I was clued in on that several weeks before you guys were. So that gave me time to watch over the trailer, make some content, discuss it with other creators, that kind of stuff. And that way, when they made the official announcement, all I had to do was hit publish on my video. It was already ready to go days in advance. And it's the same thing whenever they've got like a blog post. We'll usually get that pretty much the day before. That gives us some time to look over it, make the video, so that when they go live with it, we just hit publish. And when something leaks, like for example, Daniel the Demon Prince, that dude was leaked. So we knew about Daniel the Demon Prince weeks before you did. But we're not legally allowed to talk about him until Creative Assembly makes the official announcement. Basically, if you're a content partner, you cannot talk about anything unless Creative Assembly has already talked about it first. And they'll tell you in advance, and sometimes it's actually detrimental that they would tell us in advance. And I actually got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't want to get clued in from Creative Assembly anymore, because the leaks are so frequent. But this is what would happen, right, with Daniel the Demon Prince. We knew about him. We had all of our content ready. I knew exactly what my opinions on the Demon Prince was, and he got leaked before Creative Assembly announced him, and people came onto the live stream and would be like, "Hey Legend, did you hear that the 9th Legendary Lord is Daniel the Demon Prince?" And I'd be like, "Oh really? Oh wow, that's so amazing," and just pretend like I didn't know. But I did know, but I wouldn't be able to talk about it. So in this case here, I went and had a look to see what all the other Total War creators were doing, because they frequent the subreddit a fair bit. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. Especially ones that cover news. And this is no shade on them at all, because they just do what they have to do legally. But if there is something that's like a prevalent discussion on the Reddit, but that Creative Assembly have no official statement on, they will usually... Well, sometimes they will make a video on it, because it's a good way to get easy views. And YouTubers, typically speaking, the one thing that we want is easy views. I mean, that's what this video is. So if they're not discussing something like this, something that's getting a lot of upvotes, that's having a lot of discussion about it, that's actually evidence for it being the case. Now, that is a little bit tinfoil hatty. And if that is the case, and they do know that the next Total War game is Total War Pharaoh, and they are legally not allowed to confirm that, that is not an invitation for you guys to go over to those creators and go, "Hey, did you know that the next Total War game is Total War Pharaoh? Legend of Total War says that you know." They're not going to be able to answer you, and you're just going to irritate them, okay? I only speculate that they might know due to the fact that nobody's talking about it, and the fact that it's been out for 19 hours, which is a long amount of time. Normally, people are on top of this stuff within a couple of hours. I'm usually way late to this stuff, because I only come onto the forum once every couple of days, because this is not what I base my channel around. But if nobody else is doing something, I'm going to do it, because that's the thing about my channel. I like to do what nobody else is doing, and if everybody else is doing something, I'm not really interested in doing it, which is usually why I don't cover every single blog post, because I just don't want to make the exact same video everyone else is. So that's another little bit of speculation to think that it may have, there may be some truth to this, because nobody else is actually talking about it, as far as what I've seen. Now, if somebody is not within the creator program, then they're legally allowed to talk about it. So if you know that another YouTuber is in the creator program and they're not talking about it, please don't harass them about it. If they're not allowed to talk about it, they're not allowed to talk about it, and all you're going to do is piss them off. So that's not going to help. And at the end of the day, it may actually be a complete red herring. Maybe the next Total War game is actually Medieval 3. I don't truly know. So that's all the evidence, I think, towards it likely being the next historical Total War game. Basically, just in summary, mod of Total War Troy, Pharaoh makes a lot of sense. None of the other creators are talking about it. A lot of upvotes everywhere. This kind of stuff happens everywhere, all the time, with leaks. This seems very likely, in my opinion. Here's the stuff to suggest that it may be a little bit unlikely. Creative Assembly has, in the past, posted or put down red herrings in location where people can find them. It doesn't happen very often, but I remember in 2016, we went to the Creative Assembly office. That was the last time I went there, actually. And we went onto their computers, and we went looking through their Steam accounts, looking for... they led us onto the computer, but I think that they knew that we would go doing this. We all did it. We all went looking to try and find out what the next historical Total War game was. This was when we knew about Warhammer 1 and Total War Attila, so we had no idea about Thrones of Britannia or Three Kingdoms at that stage. So we went looking, and we found things. Everyone was like, oh, look, Total War Stone Age. And it was just a complete red herring. So Creative Assembly would oftentimes put these red herrings in their systems, put them in places where people can easily find them, and it'd just be completely false. However, I think that this here is just a mistake, and I think that this went up here sooner than it was supposed to, because this looks like it's just a playlist, and someone tagged it in there. And I also think that the next historical Total War game is going to be announced very soon, at which point then the creators will be able to tell you about it, and probably let you know that they already knew at this point here. That's what I think. But there is a possibility that this all is just a farce, and we won't truly know, and we don't really benefit from it either, until that point anyway. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on it. Fair bit of speculation. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. I'm curious to know about what you think about the next historical Total War game being Total War Pharaoh. I don't care about the setting of any particular Total War game. I only care about the mechanics of it. So I'm definitely interested in the setting, but I've got problems with Total War Saga Troy, which is why I only ever made like 2 videos on it. So I hope that the issues that I had with Troy have been resolved for Pharaoh. We'll just have to wait and see when the time comes. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.